Know that I'm wearing the same sweater that I wore in the last like 3 of these videos. Uh, I don't change my sweater every day. I do have a t-shirt that was clean when I put it on, but then and I was gonna just wear the t-shirt to vary the aesthetic for you a little bit. But then I put curry all down the front of my t-shirt and I looked really slovenly, so I had to put the same sweater back on, and now I suppose I look only marginally less slovenly because now you know I don't change my sweater every day. I don't think my face is dirty. I can't see anything in the shot, but I'm going to wipe my mouth with a sanitizing wipe because my lips feel a bit spicy and maybe there is some residue or something. So for those 2 or 3 of you who watch these videos and only watch the first 1 minute and 18 seconds, seems to be pretty consistently there. Now you've got something else to see at the beginning of the video. Bye. Thanks for clicking on. And for the 0 of you that continue watching after that, welcome to the Qabalah of Twin Peaks. I'm Leonard Scott Collins, and I'm going to go step by step analyzing every single episode of Twin Peaks by the numbers, according to the Hermetic Qabalah, or the Thelemic knockoff of the Hermetic Qabalah, an obscure numerical system that I promise I'm not making up. Wow, where do I get started with this one? Season 1, episode 4, 5th overall episode of Twin Peaks, in case you're following along at home. Fifth overall episode of Twin Peaks. Is that what I said? So this is the one. No, I don't know if anything super interesting happened. It was great. Oh, this is the one where a llama gives Cooper a dirty look. That's my favorite. Yeah. So is Cooper a magician? How do I defend this idea that Cooper is not just a guy kind of who's fallen like Alice down a magic tunnel and is spiraling down a magical journey, but is actually a conscious initiate doing things on purpose to learn magic. Why he's, I won't say prepared, but a little bit more prepared for some of the nonsense he encounters in Twin Peaks. Well, he says in this episode, there's the one hint. He says he doesn't want to be there when Sarah Palmer is with the sketch artist because he's a strong sender and he doesn't want to subconsciously influence her memory of the dream she had about Bob. So we know he's done psychic experiments before. We don't know what kind, but we know they've been the kind with senders and receivers. And he's approached them in a scientific enough manner to have a sense of whether he's a good sender or a good receiver, or what the dynamics of this subtle communication would be. So, and he's probably done this within the context of the FBI, because we know that the FBI occasionally runs these sorts of spooky programs. There was the one where they were just dosing random people with LSD for no reason, thinking that they could maybe do mind control or something. And there's ones where then they of course track unidentified flying objects, because I mean, if somebody flies something in U.S. airspace, that's a potential threat. So you gotta know about all your identified objects. If you want to know about all your identified objects with like air traffic controllers and stuff like that, make sure planes don't hit each other. It's even more important to know about unidentified objects. It doesn't necessarily mean they're super into UFOs, although sometimes I think they were. Also, UFOs doesn't mean that they're super into aliens. Of course they're super into UFOs. Who wouldn't be? I mean, if you're worried about air traffic, you got to know what's up there that you don't know about. So, but I think sometimes they've been interested in aliens too. And then also there's this thing, I wish I could remember the names of these projects, but off the top of my head, I'm not getting them because I'm not a big conspiracy guy anymore. But there's the remote viewing experiments. So maybe Cooper was involved in something like this, although I think that was the 70s. He might not have been in the FBI yet because he looks like a young man. Maybe he's 30. So, maybe Gordon Cole, who hears about his dreams and encourages him to write things down. Maybe Gordon Cole has helped him with some of these experiments. It's a subtle clue, but I think there's reason to believe that Cooper's a magician. Okay. Also, he's chasing this dream imagery pretty recklessly for someone who should be doing a scientific investigation. They show up at the animal hospital and it's next to a convenience store. It's not even the right convenience store. Bob Lydecker's not even the right Bob. But he goes above a convenience store, and Harry goes, man, you'd think you'd be scared to go to sleep at night. And just like these Kabbalistic symbols we're chasing in this series, it doesn't have to be the right convenience store. It doesn't have to be the right Bob. He gets a real clue. He gets Waldo's file. So convenience stores and Bobs have become symbols in the aura of this investigation that let Cooper know he's on the right track. No, that's Kabbalistic. It's more like bullshit dream interpretation, but we're in a surrealist medium here, so I think that's okay. Let's talk about the number 3, if you count the Sephiroth from the Tree of Life. Bina. Bina is the first Sephiroth above the abyss. Sephira, I should say, the first Sephira above the abyss. It's the only Sephira in the world of Bria, just above the Ruach, just beyond the thinking, judging, self-aware mind in this place of inspiration, this place of aspiration, the place where maybe most of our novel ideas, the place from whence most of our novel ideas maybe actually come. My brother observed to me that, when you're sitting down and you're trying to solve a problem, what is the experience of thinking? I mean, the experience of thinking is the experience of waiting for an answer. It's the epistemology is mysterious. It's just essentially mysterious, experientially mysterious, phenomenologically mysterious. There is obviously something beyond the mind at work, and that can be activity, not thoughts, but actions. Those would be down in the nefesh, and then above, maybe these inspirations you can think of as being in Bria. And that's the third Sephiroth. It's usually black, but we can't use black to communicate Qabalah because everyone's in mourning, and so everyone's wearing black anyway. I mean, if you want to show that someone's in mourning in a film, you put them in black because, often people who are really in mourning also wear black. So it doesn't mean anything in terms of a color story to show blackness. Except in Fire Walk With Me Before People Are Dead, and Laura wears black to show vivacious, deviant sexuality, and also because the colors of Malkuth are citrine, olive, russet, and black. Purple is usually the color of Yesod, the 9th Sephirah, all the way down here. It's called, Yesod is Hebrew for the foundation. Not like the foundation is in like the club, but the foundation is in the grounds of things. But there are no number 9s in this episode. It's all 3s. And so I think the purple is Binah. And that's appropriate because the angel of Binah, whose name is Safkiel, wears indigo robes. So there's purple there. And then the other reason I think that is that in season 3, when you go to the giant's castle and you meet Senorita Dido, who we've just decided is Lady Nuit, the mistress of the night sky, everything is purple. And so when this purple starts to show up in this episode, I think this is exercising. This means exercising. I'm on like a ski machine. Ben Horn is wearing purple when he does the ski machine and has that conversation with Audrey about putting her to work in the department store. And then somebody's wearing purple. I think maybe Donna's wearing purple in the bathroom meeting with Audrey. I might be wrong about that, but that's where their partnership, their detective partnership, is incepted. And there's other instances of purple throughout the episode. It would be interesting to know whether these things that are the beginnings of storylines all have flashes of purple, because maybe that's talking about the foundation of a new thread that needs to be pulled or something. Of course, Truman is always wearing his plaid tartan jacket that he brought from home. Everyone else is wearing actual police uniforms, and Truman's always got that jacket on. I don't know why. But it might indicate a special relationship between him and something going on in the mauve zone, the influence of the wood over him being somehow different than the influence of the wood over everyone else. You know, maybe because he's high rank in the Bookhouse Boys or something. You know how cardinals and emperors and stuff, they wear purple. Maybe he's got the high-ranking position as a purple-wearing something. I don't know. But the prevalence of purple in this episode goes along with the prevalence of the number 3. We get that the dice sucking, not the dice sucking, the domino sucking for the first time, and 3 kind of points us at the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit working in harmony to put the aspirant's mind towards the resurrection and the life of Jesus Christ. It's also sort of the magical formula, these 3 things working in harmony, the inspiration towards God, you know, gives the magician this power to move. But I think we're much more on target with, but I think we're much more on target when we think of it as being Binah. And so, is this the first appearance of Judy in the program? How is it that all these characters that are wearing purple in this episode, are they being incepted somehow as being shown as like swept up in Judy's scheme, if you were, the fall of Laura Palmer, the activation of Bob, and now the movement of whatever it is Judy represents rippling through the town, these little glimmers of purple. Or maybe they're all with the giants, since it's the giant's castle that's represented with purple. Judy really is seen in this high contrast black and white. So maybe the guys in purple are the good guys that are working with the giant, Laura's agents. Because remember, the giant has the gold ball, the giant's all purple. Laura, as the gold ball goes to counteract the sort of putrid Judy eggs. So maybe the fact that Laura's dead and now these little splashes of purple are showing up around people who were her allies, Truman, Donna, Horn, Bobby, dubious allies maybe, but people that cared about her. Maybe it means that that the Giants' forces are mobilizing against disaster. Baba Briggs is one of the characters in purple. He's wearing like a purple golf shirt that says Dick on the pocket, and on the back it says guilty 4+1. It's weird. We want it to be 4-1, right? Because we're looking at all these instances of the number 3. But it's not. It's 4+1, and 4+1 is guilty. Guilty is important in a murder investigation. It's a vital key word for any murder investigation. You're wondering who is guilty. Guilty 4+1. So who are the 4? Maybe the 4. We know Laura had sex with 3 men before she died, and we suspect that the +1 could be this Bob guy, right? Because he's not really a man. He's just like another something. But who's the 4? Is Bobby? The 4 is Bobby guilty as well. He says we're all guilty at the funeral, so maybe it means Bobby, maybe it means Ben, for being, helping Laura, consciously or not. I think it's consciously not helping Laura, develop as a sex worker, push her career forward. If you want to think of it like that, and it's the sex work that put her, in part, that put her in the compromising position. I don't think that's sexist to say that, because I don't think she was killed because she was a sex worker. I think she was a sex worker because Leland was her father, and she was killed because Leland was her father. She fell into a bad pattern of drugs and sex because she was abused, and then she was murdered as a natural consequence of growing up abused with an abusive father who happens to be a murderer. So I'm not uncomfortable with that narrative, because it's not saying sex workers deserve to die. It's saying that sometimes when sex work is caused by a disordered mind, the disordered mind can be caused by abuse. Sometimes sex work is a valid choice, and sometimes it's a symptom of a larger problem. Four plus one. 4 is chesed. It's shown in blue. It's the 4th. So Keter Chokmah Bina chesed. Chesed is shown in blue. It's the 4th Sephiroth, the last one before you cross the abyss. The planetary association is Jupiter. Chesed means, I think, something like mercy. It's the middle of the 3 Sephiroth on the pillar of mercy. And then if you add 1 to that, you go across the tree to Gevura, which we've talked about before. That's shown in red. It's Martian, and it means something like severity, and it's on the pillar of severity. So these 2 forces of mercy and severity, either sometimes you could think of them as being balanced, or you could think of them being in tension. And red and blue together make purple. Elementary color theory, you're welcome. And Bobby's shirt is purple. So is Bobby being torn between these 2 forces of viciousness and forgiveness? And are those forces of Like, you can be vicious in the cause of good, or you can be vicious in the cause of evil, just like you can be merciful in the cause of evil or merciful in the cause of good. So is Bobby like a good guy who's undecided between the tactics of viciousness and forgiveness, and wearing purple sort of as a living between those two things? Maybe. Gimal is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Beth, Gimal, Daleth. No, Daleth is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's the Hebrew equivalent to the English letter D, and then Aleph is one. And if you go to Hebrew's written backwards, and in my memory it's fuzzy. I can't remember whether it's Ad or Da, that means mist, guilty mist. And we see the fog in the trees in season 3 an awful lot. And Laura talks in just the previous episode about getting lost in the trees. And we know that the lodge spirits from pure air descend, just like a sort of mist. And if we were watching this in 1992 or 1991, we might miss this clue and think that it's bad. Another word in Hebrew, the only other word in Hebrew, with at least in the Sefer Sephiroth, Crowley's book, that adds to the number 5, has Beth and Gimal in it. So like BG or GB, Gab or Beg or something. Again, I'm looking at a bad transcription of this book, so I didn't know whether I should be reading the letters left to right or right to left. But the word means back. And the words are, the 4 + 1 is written on Bobby's back. So we know that clue is right. So guilty mist is probably also correct. Where else do we see the blue and red together? In Jacoby's eyes, right? Another character torn between these warring forces of mercy and vengeance, perhaps. Jacoby is torn between forces. He's in a self-destructive place and also trying to help. So maybe for Jacoby, the vengeance is internalized. He's beating himself up because Laura's dead, but also feeling that he can't help because he's got this doctor-patient privilege thing going on. He needs to honor her memory. So whereas Bobby is being vicious in the cause of righteousness and merciful in the cause of righteousness, and everyone looks at him and thinks, what a bad guy, even though he has, let's say, pure motives. Jacoby is behaving in a professionally upstanding way, continuing to take care of Johnny Horn, and trying his best to cooperate with Cooper, but even though he's projecting this image of like a good guy, his mercy and severity are both destructive. He feels that it would be inappropriate to fully cooperate with the investigation, even though I don't know if attorney-client privilege still stands when you're speaking to law enforcement and when your client is dead. Not attorney-client privilege, patient-client, doctor-patient privilege or whatever. And then his instinct to severity is completely self-destructive. It's also the first time we see an owl. And the owls are not what they seem. So what does the owl seem? Sarah says Bob looks like an owl. He just doesn't. I don't know why she says that. I mean, maybe you think he does, but to me, I don't see the relationship at all. Virtually every other character looks more like an owl than Bob does. But an owl is one of the things. But Bob is one of the things that the owl seems like. If you go to if you go to 777, not Sephir Sephiroth, but 777, and you look down the columns, you see that owls go with Armistice, gods of the moon and goddesses of the moon and of the hunt. And so that's another thing owls might seem to be. So we know that's not it. We also see online all the time about, the owls show up seem to show up whenever people are talking about Laura. And so maybe the owls are like psychopomps carrying souls back and forth between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead. So that's another thing they seem to be, so that can't be right either. Even though it's not in my favorite magical textbooks, and even though it's not explicit in the series, and even though I don't think, well, Lilith isn't in the Bible, she's in these other Hebrew stories, and so saying that it isn't in the Bible is nonsense. But anyway, if you look online on the Wikipedia and stuff, you see images of Lilith with bird feet and owls associated with a lot with Lilith in traditional by tradition. So, and I've already said that I think Laura Palmer is Lilith. They've got a powerful demon, Bob, on the loose, and Laura is a force that the giant has to counter with. If you've got a sex maniac, right? Let's say you've got, in The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, Bob seems to function as an incubus, going to a pubescent girl as she develops and poking her in these sexual ways, injecting her nights with menace and confusion and sexual frustration. It's a sort of disorder of coming of age in an unhealthy environment, and you think of this spirit, this heavy spirit that comes and presses down on your chest, giving you the sleep paralysis experience. Maybe you see nocturnal figures, and taking your breath, your sex force, extracting this all from you until there's nothing left. So Bob at first seems to be an incubus, and then Bob seems to be a more powerful spirit, a sort of poltergeist or a demon or something that can possess people. It lives in Leland Palmer, and it lives in Cooper. But I've already said that I think Bob might be Baal, and this is because of the clue of the frog moth, and the fact that having Bob on Earth longer than he's meant to be seems to be sort of bringing about the end times. We see a lot of plagues from Revelation in season 3, which we'll talk about more when we get to season 3. But Laura is an antidote to Baal. Baal is released upon the earth, and why does he at first seem to be such a small sort of inconvenience, a dedicated threat to one person, and then become this powerful spirit that's shaking the entire community, possibly the entire world? Why is Bob the linchpin of Xiao Day's plot? It seems to be because of Laura, because Lilith is there, the only, the first woman to ever stand up to a man and talk about what she wanted sexually. I mean, according to, this more feminist interpretation, that Lilith was thrown into the garden because she refused to submit to missionary sex. She didn't want to be on her back beneath a man. And so this, the original fiery, indomitable spirit woman, and the actual real life first woman, not extracted from man, not Adam's rib, but a woman made from the clay of the earth. I think she's able to contain Bob and keep him from wreaking the havoc we see in season 3 by being the most interesting thing around. Of course, if Bob could possess Laura, if Baal and Lilith could be harmonized in one being, the consequences would be catastrophic. So it's also because Lilith was thrown out of the garden. So this is seen, at least by the spirits of heaven, to be not only a useful tool in their toolbox, but also just punishment for her, because she is a fallen spirit in a bad way and just deserves to be brutally tortured again and again and again for all eternity. I did a bibliomancy today, and I got the quote from Liberal: "He that is righteous shall be righteous still. He that is filthy shall be filthy still." In this case, unfortunately, maybe it should be she that is filthy shall be filthy still. So, heaven is not a forgiving place, maybe, at least not the Mauve Zone. Anyway, the owls are Laura. And the piece of text, Donna says to Audrey, or James. Donna says to James, I think. Laura always said her mother was kind of spooky. She used to have these dreams. Laura did too. And then the owl goes, whoo, whoo. It's not a creepy kind of hoot. It seems to be, at least to me, an affirmation. It's like, yeah, you're right. My mother was spooky. I was spooky. We did have dreams. You pull those threads. It's Laura showing up for the first time to watch her friends and tell them that they're on the right track. I think that's it for me for today. It's been half an hour. I hope you're enjoying the videos. Those of you who logged on only to log off a minute 18 seconds later, you know who you are. You won't see this, but I'm glad you were here.